Rain came sideways off the Marmara, needling the Bosphorus into slate. Denise told herself she could still turn back. The message in her encrypted inbox had been 5 words. Tonight. Ballot. Bring no one. It was signed by Yusuf, a fixer who used to slip her names when she was a rookie reporter. She hadn't heard from him in a year. She took the M2 to Halich, crossed the metro bridge with wind pushing at her knees, and dropped into Ballot's steep lanes near the Iron Church. Winter narrowed everything: streets, patients, margins. Cats watched from windowsills, eyes saucer-wide. Yusuf stood under a butcher's awning, smaller, newly shorn, a purple bruise under one eye. "Sutlukov?" he asked. "Always," she said. "Code. Do you need an exit?" He pressed a metro card into her palm. Warm plastic, as if it had blood. "Locker," he said. "Other side of the water. If they shift it, Karakoy or Üsküdar. Don't use your phone. If I don't make it." His eyes ticked past her. Rubber scraped wet stone. The air pressed flatter. 2 men in black puffers came around the corner, faces blank with professional boredom. A third figure, a woman, hung back, taking everything in. "Hanım Efendi," one said, flashing a badge too fast to read. "You shouldn't be here." "Kimse Degelim," Denise said. "I'm nobody," and stepped backward into the alley. Yusuf didn't run. He put his hands behind his head like a man accepting a prize he didn't enter. The woman's eyes clipped to Denise's hands and stayed there. Denise turned and moved. Laundry swung like flags. A muezzin's call climbed through sleet. She took stairs cut into the hill, half snow, half mud, breath-counting time. A cat hissed like steam. She reached Halich station and slid in behind a family, letting their tickets open the gate. On the platform she dared a look at the metro card. Along the seam ran a faint slit, just wide enough for a whisper. A key, she thought. She didn't test it. The train rushed in, doors breathing open. She chose a car with a teenage couple practicing indifference. Safety, she'd learned, was often the mouth of witnesses. As the doors closed, she saw 2 puffers reach the stairs. They didn't hurry. Üsküdar or Karakoy. She chose Üsküdar and stayed standing, knuckles on a pole. In the tunnel, the windows turned into a dark mirror. Her face looked older in fluorescent afterglow. She pressed her thumb against the card's seam until a corner lifted, slid out a micro key the size of a fingernail, and tucked it under her tongue. The platform smelled of wet stone and sesame. She let the evening rush carry her toward lockers painted municipal blue. A cleaner's cart squeaked. Schoolboys thundered past. Denise stopped at 27B and felt the key lock home as if the city had arranged it. Inside sat a cracked phone wrapped in the sleeve of a child's yellow raincoat and, beneath it, a tea garden receipt from the ferry pier. On the back, a single word in pencil: repairs. She held the phone and knew 3 truths at once. She should drop it in the Bosphorus. If she did, she would think about it every hour afterward, and if she didn't, someone else would decide what it meant. She put the phone in her pocket, tasted cold metal where the key had been, and moved back toward daylight with the rain turning to sleet. The city didn't choose for you. It laid out routes and watched which one you took. The Üsküdar corridor was warm with air from tired vents. Denise leaned behind a potted ficus and powered the phone. No logo, just folders named in nonsense and one called repairs. She tapped it. The phone asked for a pattern. Her hand moved before her mind did, drawing the crooked L she'd used on an old Android when she was with Sem. The phone opened. Sem had once joked that every Istanbulite dated a hacker by accident. She hadn't thought of him in weeks. Now her fingers typed his number and hovered. If she was flagged, a call would glow on some console. She deleted the draft and bought a token for a public pay phone by the ferry. Vendors folded into awnings to escape the sleet. He answered on the fourth ring, voice narrow with suspicion. "Don't say my name," she said. "Kadikoy Pier. Tea garden under the neon shrimp. Sit where Erdogan the cat sits. 20 minutes. You can't boss Erdogan," he said. "But I'll try." At the tea garden dusk collected under plastic. The owner, an old woman with rings on every finger, squinted. "Kazim, buy tea before you flood my floor." Denise bought 2 tulip glasses. Sem arrived damp, bearded. They didn't hug. "You look like weather," he said. "You still carry cables?" she asked. He patted his pocket. She slid him the phone. "Yusuf gave me this. He's being processed. Folder called repairs. The unlock was yours." Sem's eyebrows went up, then down. He connected a cable to a small block that blinked. "You didn't sign this into your number?" "No." "Good. First thing it does is ask home for directions." He angled the phone away from the street. "These file names look random, but they're hashes, dates and places disguised. Whoever built this keeps tidier books than the city." They watched a clip the length of a cigarette. Water sheeted down a concrete tunnel. Men in vests clustered, doing nothing useful. A white SUV idled nearby. The camera tipped, catching a sharp profile in the passenger seat. Denise knew the face. The minister who cut ribbons on a stadium last fall. Audio was water and a long cough, underscored by a faint electronic beeping. "Under the city," Denise said. "There's more," Sem said. A crate rolled on unmapped rails. A security camera panned left though its mount was fixed. Traffic was diverted for a drill while a convoy slipped past. He opened a text file of meeting minutes. "A contractor called Selvi has a deal to expedite repairs in 10 districts. Selvi doesn't exist in the trade registry. It's a white label for a holding company tied to our ribbon cutter." "We publish," Denise said, and heard how thin it sounded. "If you dump it, it burns hot for a day and cooks you with it," Sem said. "If you want it to matter, you need armor." "Nazen," she said. Her former editor had a spine like a tramline. "Call," Sem said. Nazen's hello carried the scrape of a cigarette. "I thought you moved on to translation." "I did," Denise said. "But there's a hurricane under the streets. I have video and minutes." "I don't print hurricanes," Nazen said. "I print what survives court. Bring it. And don't bring me theater pretending to be evidence." They ferried back, steam rising off their coats. Erdogan the cat watched with proprietary calm as they left. Across the water, the city flickered between suspicion and hospitality, which is to say it was itself. The storm held position over the bridges like a hand. Nazen's office sat above a bookstore near Tunnel, warm and paper-scented. She met them at the door in a sweater the color of dust. "People think I have sources," she said. "What I have are stubborn readers and a lawyer who likes old jazz." They set the cracked phone on her desk and played the clips. Nazen watched with her head tilted until the third video jumped. She paused, rewound, then pointed. "There," she said. 37 seconds vanish between angles. If I wanted a true thing to look fake, I'd cut just enough to make someone like me walk away. "You're saying someone wants this to implode," Denise said. "I'm saying someone wants noise, not use," Nazen replied. She asked 3 questions Denise couldn't answer and 2 Sem could. Then she folded her arms. "Leave it with me for 48 hours. I'll see what can stand up in court. Or don't, and become a parable about impatience. I'm old, not romantic. Denise thought of Yusuf under the butcher's awning, of men with quiet shoes. Her phone vibrated on the desk. The screen said, "Karam." "Answer," Nazan said. "On speaker." Her brother's voice was calm as a lunch order. "Sister, come home. Now." "Why?" "Because they'll let you make one mistake. After that, they're done letting." The line clicked off. Sem looked at her. How would he know to call now? "Because he watches everything," Denise said, and hated how true it sounded. They risked a taxi across the bridge. The driver complained about rent and weather, then asked, "Siz gazetisi misiniz?" Denise said no. Sleety wind shoved at the car near the crest. On the other side, the city tilted toward Üsküdar like a waiting animal. Karam lived near the old walls in a flat the color of cigarettes. He opened the door before she knocked. No uniform, just sleeves pushed to the elbow. He looked tired the way iron looks tired. "You brought him," he said, seeing Sem, and stepped aside. Books on policing lined a shelf beside battered novels. On the coffee table, sunflower seeds and a child's drawing of a fairy. "What do you do now?" she asked, though she knew. "Cybercrime," he said. "The kind that turns into real crime when wires meet concrete." He nodded at the phone. "I want to see what you think you have." They played the clips. He didn't flinch at the minister's face, didn't pretend not to recognize the access points. "This is not nothing," he said. "But it's not ready." "Then help us," Denise said. "I am," Karam said. "By not arresting you." Sem bristled. "On what charge?" "Receiving stolen data. Tampering. Endangering an operation." Karam clicked a pen he didn't need. "Did Yusuf tell you where he got the phone?" "He didn't, because he doesn't know. It was placed for you. The locker was seeded. The key was meant for your mouth." Denise felt cold run under her skin. "Why me?" "Because you're credible enough to matter and stubborn enough to move," Karam said. "Because we share a surname that opens one door in a certain office. Because someone in that office wants to force a fight he can win." "Who?" "The people who like theater when the script is theirs," he said. "And the people who fear theater and want to close the stage. Sometimes they're the same people." He tapped the frame where the timestamp skipped. "Find the missing 37 seconds. Without them, any prosecutor who isn't suicidal shrugs. With them, you have a civic grenade." "How?" Denise asked. "Whoever wrote the script for you knows your habits," Karam said. "So write back." They drove in silence to Sihanga. A second locker sat under a cafe that sold cinnamon buns to people who called them something else. The fleck of tin key fit as neatly as Karam had predicted. Inside, a plastic badge, duplicate puffers, a scarf like hers, 3 burner phones with the same folders, and a 4th labeled cuts. Sem powered it. The folder held a few files and a note in bland think tank font. "Truth needs help." The largest file contained the missing 37 seconds, a camera operator taking a call, repositioning to catch the convoy's plate before the drill diverted traffic. The difference between rumor and charge sheet. "Someone staged your night so you'd find this," Sem said. "Someone else cut it so we couldn't use it," Denise said. 2 hands on the same puppet. They didn't call Karam. They called Nazan. Her lawyer hummed in the doorway while they built the piece. Nazan's rule was simple. Demonstrate, don't accuse. The story ran the scene twice, gap and restored, laid the custody chain like stepping stones, and showed how contractor Selby dissolved into a holding company that dissolved into the minister's brother-in-law's board seat. The headline was dry enough for court. Contractors' access to unmapped repairs raises questions. The feeds caught fire anyway. The holding company denied, then promised a review. The ministry called it preparedness misunderstood. Trolls called Denise a traitor. Another cluster called her a hero. Most people, she suspected, read it on the ferry and felt a pinprick of recognition. At dawn Yusuf texted a photo, plaster over his eyebrow, 2 fingers up at a tea stall. "Alive," he wrote. Underneath, "The next story is already written for you." Karam called. "I'm moved to a desk," he said. "Be careful with what comes next." What comes next? The part where they try to cast you in a different play. She walked to the pier and bought tea from a boy who couldn't keep the foam from slopping over. Erdogan the cat occupied his chair. On a bench, 2 women argued about bills and then, with relief, about neighbors. Denise dialed a number from the Cuts phone. The camera operator, a bored Efendim, answered. "You don't know me," Denise said. "You're in the 37 seconds. I want to talk about the call you got, what you thought would happen, and what did." Silence, then a careful inhale. "Meet where there is wind," the voice said, and hung up. On the Karakoy ferry, the city pulled itself into daylight. The water was dirty, honest, moving. Denise kept thinking about the note more than the videos. Truth needs help. Maybe the shock wasn't that power staged things. She had always known that. It was how completely the staging now included people like her, not as dupes but as necessary actors whose panic and stubbornness supplied authenticity. The locker had been packed for her habits. Even the pattern that unlocked the phone came from an old life. Nazan messaged, 5 lawsuits, 10 new subscribers, 1,000 threats. Sem asked if she wanted breakfast. Denise answered neither. She stood at the rail and felt the ferry bang against chop. In school she had believed neat stories were the enemy, that messy truth would save them. Now she understood something colder. The play wasn't hiding the facts. It was rehearsing their reception, teaching the audience when to boo and when to cheer until the rhythm felt like common sense. She turned from the rail and reached for a payphone token. The ending wouldn't be an ending. But her vision had snapped into focus. If she had already been chosen as a teller, her last freedom was to choose, each time, what to refuse.